My name's Adele Onyango and welcome to another episode of Legally Clueless. No, seriously, I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. Hey you, welcome to episode 246. Thank you so much for rocking with this podcast. OG members, if that's you, I've got nothing but love for you. And if you're new to this podcast, welcome to the family. Audio episodes like this go out every single Monday, and you can stream them everywhere you find podcasts on. You can also head over to our website, legallycluelessafrica.com, sign up to join our family there. And you can also watch our video series and our tour series. We actually have 4 seasons of a video series out. Yeah, head over to our YouTube. All those links are in the show notes, so make sure you head over there and really become part of the fam. I'm excited for this episode because the past month, we've been going through Monica's story and we're finally at the finish line. The final part of her story is coming up a little later in this episode. Listen to this.
My marriage was almost crumbling, after all that time we've stood together. Then relatives who are not there, they start coming. My husband is a firstborn in the family, so they're like, sasa utabaki tu na mtoto mmoja hivo. So they started coming with the suggestion of taking a second wife, wakuza. And it got to a point I felt like, I can't stomach this pressure. We gave ourselves a break. Me, I left and went back to my father's house.
That's coming up in a bit, so keep it right here. And song of the week. Oh my goodness. First and foremost, one of the things I loved when I first joined TikTok was I was discovering so much new music. And then my TikTok feed just became funny fail videos. Then it became really hot guys. I am one of those people who just be like, hey, look at this man's shoulders. But then now it's back to it's back to music. It's back to music. And I stumbled on this guy who makes lo-fi music, but like Afro beats. So his name is actually Lo-Fi Afro Beats. And he has this song that is quite catchy. I really like it. It's called Good Vibes Infinity TT. Like infinity, but you spell the end T-I-T-I-T-I. Yeah, not T-Y. It is so yummy. It is just so yummy. So I'll put a link to the song in the show notes. Please check it out because this is one of those moments that I stumbled on a song on TikTok and it wasn't just like the hook. That's dope. You know what irks me? I've just said that and I remembered a particular artist whose music just irks me because I fall in love with the chorus or like 15 seconds of the song because his music always goes viral on TikTok. And then I listen to the full song because I have so much psych. I'm just like, oh, today I'm going to listen to the full song. And then his bars are just so weak. It's Jack Harlow. And I try not to shit on any creator of things because if I don't like it, doesn't mean it's terrible because, somebody else will like it. That's just how it is with art. But almost all his songs, I fall in love with them because of 15 or 30 seconds on TikTok. And then I listen to the full one and then it's just not for me. Anyway, he gave us White Boy, what were we calling it? Winter? All the hot white men dancing to his song. He gave us that, so he's forgiven. Anyway, I have 2 things to say before we jump into 100 African stories. The first one is I met so many of you at the Heels Connect event. It was magical. Thank you so much for coming out. But I also want to say just an extended enveloped thank you to everyone who shares that they appreciate the work that we do here on Legally Clueless. We get messages on Instagram from, I think this week we got from Rwanda, South Africa, the UK, the US, and it's really such an honor to be able to share things that you can connect with here. And I also want to thank people who walk up to me and share that they connect with the podcast in one way or another, or our video series, or whatever it is, the workshops actually, or the group therapy sessions, whatever you connect with that we're doing here. Thank you so much for sharing kind words with us because there are so many moments that I rely on those words you share with me to keep going. So it's not in vain. If you send it via DM, it really does mean something because there's many moments and you definitely will relate to this. There's many moments in whatever we do as humans, you might think that, what's the point? Why am I even doing this? Nobody's connecting with this, or this is a waste of time. I'm human, so I do have those moments. And when I do, at least I can tap into your words, and yeah, so I'm very, very thankful. That was one. The second thing is, there's a movie that you have to check out. Well, not have to, but I think you should. I watched it last night and I wept like I was at a funeral. My goodness. The movie's called Otto. I think the main guy is Tom Hanks. Yeah, I think it is. And first, just a heads up, it has themes of suicide running through it. Like, that's like a major theme in the film. So did it have a trigger warning? It did actually have a trigger warning. And so when I saw that, I was a bit hesitant to watch it. But I was still like, there's something interesting here. Let me watch it. I'm really glad I did. It was such a reminder that there is so much love for you, even outside what society trains us to think should be our only communities, So like family, right? And sometimes that doesn't work out. It was such a reminder that chosen families are real. Friendships where you experience love and intimacy are important. Those can grow into your family. You're not alone. You're never alone. There's just so much love for you. And I just felt like I need to share that reminder as we inch closer to the festive season and holiday time, which can be very scary for a lot of people. Last year, I was freaking out, and I think I shared it on the podcast, but I was still being like undercover about my divorce. But I was so scared about Christmas because I didn't know how was I going to start a new tradition. What did it look like? I had moved to this town where I knew little to nobody. But can you imagine, as much as I was so scared, it ended up being the best Christmas I've had in a long time. And it was a very simple Christmas, but I felt so loved and so appreciated. And so just remember, you are never alone. There is so much love for you, so much love, and you can have chosen family. You know what I mean? So I don't know if that helps, but I truly know that the festive season can be quite hectic, or maybe even that your family, you, for whatever reason, have to be around them, and maybe there's a toxicity or a trauma related with that space, or there could be triggers related to that space. One, always know that you don't have to be somewhere you don't want to be. Two, in case that's not an option, because people are different and our circumstances may be different, please hang in there. Oh my goodness. Like, if that's the situation you're in, I want to give you a big hug. Please hang in there and just always know you're not alone. You're never alone. And there's so much love for you. Okay, let's jump into 100 African stories. This is the third and final part of Monica's story. We left off where her husband was doing research to try and find organizations that could help pay for her cancer treatment. And he found Kenya Cancer Association, and he heads there to see if they can help.
100 African stories on Legally Clueless. Stories from Africa.
So he met this lady called Josephine. Josephine akamwambia Kenya Cancer Organization is like the umbrella body of all cancer organizations. So we don't have funds per se. But I can refer you to an organization nimesikia inaanza inaitwa Faraja Cancer Support Trust, iko Mpisha. Si Mpisha ndio tumefanya CT scans. So akaenda. He met with Philip. Philip was the patient support manager, a psychologist by profession. Kamuelezea. Philip anamwambia kuna kitu yenye mnaweza atauza basi mpate hiyo pesa. Anamwambia we have exhausted everything. Hatuna mali yoyote na bado tunaendelea kuclear bill ya Kijabe. So Philip akamwambia okay, I'll raise your story to Shaira, the founder of Faraja, and then we'll see if something comes up. Well and good. If it doesn't come, at least umetry. Tukasema ni sawa. So we were just like, Mungu sasa fungua njia. Sisi tumechoka. Harambes, we had done 7 of them in church. Mpaka watu sasa wakisikia people used to see number ya Kate. Kate was the treasurer. She even told us, watu wengine walikuwa wananiambia, si harambe ya Monica Buluma tena. In fact, there was a time she wanted to take a car because she had kids, sa akakuwa like connecting public means going up country, aende na personal car. So she was asking one of our friends amsaidie na gari yake because wako na mbili, but this person was already like, usiniambie mambo ya Monica Buluma. You know, people were also exhausted. We have asked, tumeomba mpaka tumechokesha watu. So the day my husband lost his phone, that is the day we get help from Faraja. So he came and told me ameibiwa simu kwa gari. But before aibiwe simu, the last call, gari ilikuwa inapiga kelele. Philip akamwambia, kuja kesho, tumepata msaada. And then from there, hawakupatana tena. So when he alighted that anaenda kumpigia simu, asikia alikuwa anasema nini, the phone is not there. So he was like, what if that call if Philip was trying to reach out to us and simu already imeibiwa, but already alikuwa shapata hiyo the word msaada imepatikana. So the following day we went to Faraja and we were told now my case was now given to the lead oncologist at Mpisha, Cancer Care Kenya. Cancer Care Kenya is the cancer center of Mpisha where you don't have to be admitted. You can just walk in as an outpatient, you get your chemotherapy and radiotherapy and you go home. So this Dr. VJ, one of the best oncologists in the country, had gotten hold of my story. And he was like, this is a case you must support. As in esophagectomy on a 24-year-old, this one you must support. So Dr. VJ really propelled Faraja, and then they had just received funding, and then it's an organization that is starting. Well, I usually say God sometimes sends angels when you least expect, because my treatment was paid for fully, 500,000 Kenya shillings. 500,000. In fact, we were like, are you guys serious? Hakuna kitu ingine mtatuitisha? Ambia, ni nyinyi mjilete tu kwa hosi. Sasa ni transport hatutawalipia, but all the treatment has been paid for. Monica, you need to come tomorrow. They do the markings where you'll be getting your radiotherapy. We went back home, we broke the news to people, and imagine the people who were feeling like wamechoka hawataki mambo yetu. Some of them thought that we've been given 500 Kenya shillings cash, and others were like, unaona sasa mambo ya kansa imewafanya hata wamekuwa wadosi. And we are like, atujapewa hiyo pesa. They have written a check direct to the hospital. So I used to have chemo on a weekly basis, because my cancer is the type of cancer where many people don't survive. So even the treatment that accompanies it has to be very strong treatment. So I used to get chemo every Monday, and radio Monday to Friday. So I was doing them concurrently. And it really takes the grace of God, because in most cases you find you will either start with one, finish with the other, or if it's chemo, you do once in a month. But here we are talking of, in a month, I've done 4 cycles of chemo. It was really by God's grace. I remember at that time even climbing those stairs, and it's just a 1-story building. Hey, ati nimefika hapo juu. People will actually clap for me ati nimejaribu, because there were times the lift ingesumbua, so we just used the stairs. Guys used to look at me, they are like, hey, and then they are telling my husband, you are a good brother, aki unapenda sister yako, and then it's like, she is my wife. What? Because I'm trim, I'm tiny. And the driver who used to bring us, I always pray that God just blesses that man. He had just retired. He decided to open his timber business. Yani, he just used to ask us for fuel only. We don't pay him anything. He will bring us to the hospital, atungoje, tumaliziwe, aturudishe home, ndio aendelee na shughuli zake. So I did, it's called adjuvant chemoradiation. Yani chemotherapy and radiotherapy at the same time, for 6 weeks. But by the time I was in my 3rd week, my immunity went low, because remember, radio is Monday to Friday, chemo is every Monday. So by the time the effects of chemo are starting to go down, by Friday, Monday, I'm on another cycle. So by the 3rd week, my immunity went down. They checked, the blood count was low. The platelet counts was not within that range that is usually accepted, because before you do chemo and radio, they have to check if generally you are okay. You can be put on chemo and you are weak, then you are gone. So I was now put on injections. One injection goes for 15,000 shillings. That injection is supposed to boost my bone marrow to produce more blood cells, because at this time, it's like the bone marrow is not working. We can't go back to Faraja. They have already paid. They were given the quotation, they have paid 500,000. So how am I going to go back to them? So sasa hapa ni marafiki. Marafiki pia ndio hao wamechoka. That lady Kate, when we told her about those 3 injections that I was supposed to get, so that is 45,000. That lady just went to her bank account and withdrew 32,000 shillings, and she told us, Shike, endeni mdunge hiyo shindano, Monica apate nguvu amalize. Because sasa tena turudi tuambie watu pesa, watu wanajua mulilipiwa 500,000, and it had brought a lot of politics, that it even made me fall out with some family members. Because some of them were thinking, tumepewa pesa tumeweka. We try to tell them, ni check iliandikwa direct kwa hospitali, they don't believe us. So Kate was like, apana. A few friends had helped to raise the first injection. So she was like, ni 30,000 imebaki, because one injection is 15,000. She just gave us 32,000. Akasema hii hata msirudishe. Hii safari imekuwa mingi, kama hiyo ndo inafanya apate nguvu amalize hiyo chemo. So finally I got that and that injection again is not an injection that many people are lucky to have. It's called Neukin 30 mcg. Ukipata hiyo Neukin, wewe ni mtu sonko sana. I'm very sure hata sahi maybe it goes for much higher, because we are talking of 11 years down the line. So I got the Neukin 3 shots. Then my bone marrow produced more blood cells. Then I went and finished the session. So I finished chemotherapy and radiotherapy in late October. So I could imagine the journey all the way from January until October. In fact, the first time I appeared on national television sharing my story was in November, 1 month after all this ordeal. And it was Africa Cancer Foundation, led by Anyang Nyong'o, which wanted a survivor story together with a caregiver. So in this case, Mrs. Nyong'o was the caregiver to the husband, who was the patient. So they were like, we want now the reverse. A patient who has been like the woman, and then the husband, the caregiver. So when they approached Faraja was like, in fact, you have just come at the right time. We have this young couple, blah, blah, blah. And they called us at Safaricom Michael Joseph Center. Michael Joseph also shared his story that he had colon cancer, but he had not come out in public. So it's only the people who were there at that time that we realized, oh, kumbe he has also battled cancer. That was the time I think the late Bob Collymore was now taking over from Michael Joseph. So it was Safaricom that had sponsored the event, so we were there. I shared my story. After that, all the journalists were on my neck. Can I do a story with you? Can I do a story with you? Because it was something that people were saying, this is a beacon of hope. This is something that we have not even seen. Even the medics that were there, they were like, this is something that should be written even in a medical class, even for students who are studying to become surgeons and all that. So after all this ordeal, I could say that I was now good to go back to college, although I had already been prepared that for the next 5 years, I'll just be an in and out patient. So even looking for a job was a problem, because after every 6 months, I'll go back to theater at Kijabe. In total, I have gone back to Kijabe 11 times to the theater. And then at Mpisha, I will still go for regular checkups. Sometimes they check my blood count. There was a time, again, it went low, up to 6. In 2015, I had to have a transfusion. So I've had transfusions like 2 times during the course of now the follow-up treatments. So during this time, Faraja used to have forums. It's just starting. So all the time it has forums, it has talks about cancer. I'm free. I don't have anything to do. And our driver is always available. He takes me. So that is the time I started now changing my perception about all this. I saw the gap that is there in the provision of healthcare in the country, not just cancer, because I remembered Kenyatta, and I was like, I am lucky that I left Kenyatta. But what about those patients that I used to... In fact, sometimes we will sit down with my husband like, hey, na ule nani, because we had even gotten to know some names. We alimek kweli. And then sometimes we'll be told, ay, ule fulani alienda. So I was like, I have been lucky that my treatment, in as much as it has really been a very big ordeal, but I got my treatment on time. So I started seeing the gaps. The issue of chemotherapy and radiotherapy at that time, if it's not Kenyatta, the private facilities that were there, their charges were very high. So how many people can afford $500,000? So that's why you find many people were queuing at Kenyatta, because it's only Kenyatta that they can afford. So I started regretting, why did I drop biology? Because now I was like, I want anything that I do now to be focused on health matters. I really felt like there's something that we are missing as a country in the provision of healthcare services. So that's when my dream of now creating cancer awareness, because now I was like, if I have gone through this, if I go somewhere and I talk, people will listen to me more than they will listen to a doctor. And that is what happened. I will be called to Kijabu and they have support group meetings and the surgeons are sitting down. So I'm like, si Mwamuke, we had become friends. My long stay in hospital, we had become friends. Dr. Baraza siwamke anasema hapana, wewe ukiongea watu watakusikia kushinda venye mimi. Juu mimi naongea kama daktari. Lakini wewe ni experience, and it's a lived experience because ni kitu tumekuona, umepitia na you have made it. So that's when I became a cancer awareness ambassador. That's when I started saying, life is short. I had seen a lot of people die. And then in 2012, so many big people, even in the country, they died. Njenga Karume, Michuki. So I remember that time when we were looking for funds, I remember a relative telling us, sasa akina Michuki, akina Njenga Karume, wenye pesa si ati ndio shida, kama ni pesa ndio ingewaweka alive, wamekufa na wewe, mtu anakudiscourage tu. At that time again, the sitting president of Ghana, the late John Atta Mills, had gone for treatment in the UK. He came back in a casket. The then Prime Minister of Ethiopia, at that time I decided I want to be really aware of what is happening currently whenever I hear the word cancer. So Meles Zenawi, and I think he had been the longest serving Prime Minister of Ethiopia, he too went abroad for treatment, came back in a casket. So people were like, kama sitting presidents wanakufa cancer, kama ministers, former ministers wenye walikuwa na pesa wanakufa cancer, wewe hii yako sasa, But me, I was telling them, wanaweza kuwa ni pesa ndo wako nayo, mimi sina, lakini nitasurvive kwa sababu Mungu kuna kazi amenipatia. So growing up, our family, most people are tall. I can say like that because most of my cousins play basketball. So when I was growing up, I used to look at myself in the mirror, at a princess, a model. I remember even my mom used to say, kioo iwekwe mbali sana na Monica. Mimi ndio nilikuwa navunja vioo zote. My sisters will be like, wewe anza kujitayarisha. Because hii yako, unataka, tena utafeel like, hauko sawa, tena uende uoshe uso, urudi. Because I started even applying makeup when I was in high school. So this dream of becoming a model was there when I was young. Then it came and faded when I joined high school. Now I was like, I want to be an accountant. But some of my classmates would even dare me, Monica, ushai try mambo ya Miss Kenya? And I'm like, hey, me, I have a very strict mother. Anaonanga vitu kama hizo, anasema, masomo kwanza. But cancer treatment is now what propelled me to become a model. As in, a childhood dream that had died was now awakened after the cancer treatment. Because one time we were there, and then Faraja is like, we are doing the first Faraja fashion show. We want to show people that even if you go through cancer treatment, doesn't mean maisha yako imefika mwisho. You can still live a normal life. Even if challenges will be there, you can still look beautiful. It doesn't matter the hair loss. and all that. So they bring 3 modeling agencies and some designers, akina Kiko Romeo. So that's my, kumbe hawa ndio, your time nasema, I'm now sitting with designers. And every designer wants Monica Buluma to put on their outfits. Everybody's like, are you a model in real life? And I'm like, it was just a childhood dream, but I've never tried. Some of them did not believe until they heard my story. Some of them had to be even shown CDs that actually I am there to just catwalk because of the cancer because Faraja was like, the models have to be cancer survivors for the event to make sense. You can't bring somebody who doesn't understand what is cancer. They haven't gone through that, because it was a cancer event. Were meant to raise funds to show people that you can still look beautiful. And there I am, the lead model. In fact, now some of the designers, I just had to beg them, siezi vaa outfits zenyu wote, wacha pia watu wengine pia wangare outfits zenu. Everybody's like, you've got the figure, you've got the face, you've got... And I'm like, oh, so kumbe there is so much potential that can come out of somebody after an experience. So that's how I became a cancer awareness model and a cancer awareness ambassador. So I went for checkups, like I've said, 11 times up to 2017. That is when the doctors wrote a report to declare me to be in full remission. Of course, the report has to be written by the oncologist and also the surgeons, so that they compare and they say, after we have seen this lady for these 5 years, we can certify that there is no evidence of the disease ever coming back. And I thank God, because with me, I took the words of the doctors very seriously. I never missed my checkups. I used to say, kama ni hiyo pesa itapatikana, itapatikana. And now, because I had the confidence, I took myself to Safaricom Foundation. There is one time they are the ones who paid for a procedure. So until 2017, I was declared to be in full remission. My case has been cited as the best case of esophageal cancer in the country. And the esophageal cancer patient that has undergone esophagectomy is that surgery which I had in Kenya, because such surgeries are hardly done in Kenya. The surgeons say they have operated on other patients, but not with big tumors like me. And in some cases, maybe they operate part of the tumor, they leave the other part, because maybe the way the tumor is, if they operate all of it, it can cause problems to other organs. So I've been cited as the best case of esophageal cancer in the country. And the way God is good, you know, when you trust in God and when you have that hope, even when things don't seem to work. My marriage was almost crumbling, you know, after all that time we've stood together. Then relatives who are not there, they start coming. Oh, kijana wetu sasa atabaki na mtoto mmoja. You know, my husband is a firstborn in the family. So they're like, sasa utabaki tu na mtoto mmoja hivo. So they started like saying, coming with the suggestion of taking a second wife, wakuza. Nasema sasa huyu mwenye amepitia hizi vitu zote ataza. And it got to a point I felt like, I can't stomach this pressure. We gave ourselves a break. Me, I left and went back to my father's house. I remember my dad, before he died, he said, nimejenga nyumba kubwa and I know nimezaa wasichana wengi. So mkiolewa kikiumana, hakuna mtu alifukuzwa. And mi nilirudi kwetu. During that time, I was also praying for him. Because I remember at first when we went separate ways, I was like, nimekupe freedom. Oa kama unataka kuoa, fuata kenye watu wako wanafanya, you know, hasira. Mbia, hiyo time yote hawakukuwa sahi ndo wanakukujia na suggestions za uoe bibi wa pili. But when I went for counseling, when I was very angry, the priest told me, remember, this man lost his job taking care of you. He was still young. You were 24, he was 28. Angekuwa aende pia afanye mambo yake, lakini mambo yake pia ikasimama. So yeye hawezi jua na yeye anafeel aje about all this. So just pray. If it is the marriage that God had designed for you, mtarudiana. Kama si hiyo pia, itakuwa that was the time God alikuwa ameallow mkue pamoja. So finally when we reconciled, my husband stood his ground and told his people, kama ni mmoja mwenye Mungu alipanga, nitabaki na huyo mmoja. Na kama atatujalia wengine, si ati nyinyi ndio mtatupe pressure kupata wengine. mtuache kwa sababu hii mwili imeandago vitu mingi, so hatuwezi tukakimbisha hii mwili ati sijui ikuwe hivi na hivi. And we just said, wacha tu vitu sasa zikuje as they come. And in 2018, that's when I got my first job. Ever since I finished high school, this is the first time I'm getting employment in our local dispensary, the dispensary that I first started going for treatment. So this Father Emmanuel, comes to do mass for our jumuiya, our fellowships, Catholics, we call them jumuiya. So I'm the lead singer there. So as after the mass, as we are taking tea, you have a very beautiful voice. What is your name? Monica Buluma. Oh, yeah. So I have finally met the famous Monica Buluma. Oh, am I famous? Yes. The priests have discussed about you when we are eating, when we are relaxing, how you battled cancer. So we share with Father Emmanuel and how I was supposed to go back to class, but I never managed because of cancer. So in 2018, he calls me. In fact, he didn't call me. He asked the church accountant, I want to see that cancer survivor. So this church accountant had to go through somebody. Nani yako na namba ya Monica Buluma? Then I receive a call. Oh, I'm Timothy. Timo, church accountant. Sema Timo, Father Emmanuel anataka kukuona. And that's how I got a job as a cashier. He just told me, at the hospital, we are lacking one cashier. And since you have done a bit of accounts, see, you can keep financial records. Yes, that's how I got a job. And I think it was God's plan because I'm working in a hospital after going through a health challenge. So in as much as I'm there as a cashier receiving money, but I'm also interacting with patients. So I was like, maybe this is God's design that my life now equal in line with health matters. That's why I even decided I don't want to go back to be an accountant. I want to do something in relation to health matters. And then 1 month into the job, I start feeling dizziness. I experience a condition called dumping syndrome because my food doesn't get digested normally the way it would for a normal person. It travels very fast because the digestive system is now shorter. So because of that, there are some things I'm lacking in the body, and then it causes a drop in blood pressure. So I start feeling dizziness. So somebody like me, I'm not supposed to fast. Even when Catholics during Lent time we fast, me, I'm not supposed to fast. I'm not supposed to be on an empty stomach. So that effect of dumping syndrome, even if it comes, it won't find me on an empty stomach. If it finds me on an empty stomach, the dizziness can even make me faint. So that is the major effect of the surgery because the digestive system is not as it's supposed to be. So me, I start feeling dizziness and I'm like, it's dumping syndrome. I tell the doctor and the doctor is like, but see, you are feeding well. You already know how to take care of your body after all the treatment. Then the doctor is like, let's check blood. Everything is okay. HB is 13. Then he says, let's check your urine. And then they check the urine and the lab technician comes and gives me the strip. There's somebody growing in you. And I'm like, what? I went and broke the news to my husband. Even him, he was shocked. You mean after all that, after what the relatives had said, I'm expectant. Of course, during the pregnancy, we were very careful, extra careful. I called the surgeon immediately and I was like, I've conceived. Do I come for clinics there? Because I was like, wacha nikuje huko, nyinyi ndio mnajua hali yangu. But he was like, since you work in a health facility, no need. Utaangaliwa tuko. Even delivery, I went to book myself there. They told me there's no need coming all the way. Just look for a good hospital in Nairobi, which has a theater, so that in case they decide that with what you have gone through, chemo, radio, your case will be CS, you are safe. No need to come all the way. So I had my second born in 2019. That is 9 years down the line after the firstborn, after people thought that I was not going to have a child again. And he's a boy. I named him Dr. Krause after the surgeon who operated on me. Because when he left for America after his time in Kenya was up, he was like, Monica, you know your story has become a testimony. And imagine, even those relatives that think you cannot give birth again, you will give birth. And then I was like, if I give birth to a boy, I'll name him after him. Corona comes in 2020. We do Dr. Krauss, my son's first birthday in 2020 of May. That is the time lockdown is at 7. So I'm trying to cook very fast. Mimi niende job because I was reporting on night shift. Niache wageni kwa nyumba. My sister was like, waenda tu mimi nitafanya the rest. So I start feeling again dizziness. I'm like, leo lakini juu ya birthday ya mtoto nimechoka na kazi. Nikaona hii dizziness hapana, hii si dizziness ya kawaida. Again, this time round, I was the one who just bought the strip myself because I was like, my menses have not been regular since cancer treatment. But that is one of the challenges that affects, again, women who have gone through cancer. Sometimes you can even miss your menses for 2 years. And then when they come like rainfall. So I was like, my menses, even though they were not regular, but it got to a point they started being regular. So I was like, apana, something is off somewhere. So I just bought the strip in a nearby pharmacy and I checked myself. I'm expectant again. My husband again comes from work. Now I'm off duty that day and I'm like, I'm expectant again. I'm like, mtoto tu ndio yako 1 year. And then you had complications while giving birth. I had developed a condition called meconia where the child ni kama anaanza kupupu kwa tumbo because I had gone beyond the expected due date by 2 weeks. So we were really worried. Even the thought of abortion was there. We were like, tena hii tupatie stress kama hii ya last year. The thought of abortion was there, but after we sat down, we prayed. Me, I really prayed about it because I was the one who was like, if it is going to bring tena problems, I better abort it. But I prayed about it, and then I asked my spiritual father for his opinion, and he told me, Monica, what would have killed you was cancer. Now God has blessed you with another bundle of joy. And remember what was the reason why your marriage was crumbling? Children. So you want to tell God, I don't need your blessings anymore. God has given you not 1, but now 2 to show those relatives that he is able. Keep this pregnancy and you will see nothing will happen. And true to his word, this pregnancy, I worked night shift until the last day. And then I gave birth to a baby girl on my birthday. So I share a birthday with my daughter, and I named my daughter Shaira, the founder of Faraja. Because if not for Faraja, I would not have had my chemotherapy and radiotherapy.
Catch more African stories in the next episode of Legally Clueless.
Okay, so first and foremost, there's a link to Faraja's website in the show notes in case you or somebody that you know needs some support in their cancer treatment journey, or maybe you're a caregiver to a loved one who's navigating cancer and you need support, because Faraja actually also takes care of caregivers. There's therapy sessions for caregivers. So I think it's important to go for that. I wish I had that back when we were, holding my mom's hand through cancer treatment. It can be a lot for even the caregivers. So yeah, Faraja's website is linked in the show notes. Hey, Monica. Monica has single-handedly taught me so much about cancer treatment. She remembers everything. And it's been 11 years. And she explains everything so well. I know a couple of doctors who could learn a thing or two from her. And I wanted to end her 3-part story with these kind words we got for her on our Instagram page. One is from Stella Maranga. She says, Monica is a wonderful storyteller. Such a great episode. She was talking about last week's episode. And she says, looking forward to part 3. Stella, I hope you listen to this episode. Lizelle Becker from South Africa says, Monica's storytelling skill is out of this world. I agree, Lizelle. Do you know, when we were recording it, not once did I have to ask a question. She just kept, actually, I never asked a question even once. She just shared the story, And Lizelle says hers is a story of victory against all odds. Completely agree with you, my dear. Completely agree. Thank you for dropping some love for Monica on our Instagram page. And make sure you join our Instagram family. There's a link to it in the show notes, as well as our TikTok. We have Legally Clueless correspondence now. So we're recording stories all year round. We want to hear your story and share it with the world, just like we've done with Monica's story. So In the show notes, there is a storyteller form. Fill it out and we will get back to you. It doesn't matter where in the world you are. You could be in the States, you could be in the UK, you could be all over this beautiful continent of ours. We will record your story all year round. If you are in Kenya, make sure you catch this podcast on Trace FM Monday, Wednesday, 1 p.m. and 11 p.m. And Fridays we're there at 1 p.m. Just go to traceradio.co.ke to stream. You know what? I really wanted to play you the story coming up in next week's episode, but I'm torn between two stories and I know my producer is just going to have a hard time understanding this. But there's one story that's about learning to love yourself as a woman that is just so powerful. And then there's another story about leaving the UK and moving to Kenya to chase her dreams. Like solo dolo. So I'm stuck between the two because listen, just hear me out, okay? Hear me out. Let me at least get you on my side. Because I feel like I have come into a deeper awareness with my femininity this year, like on such a deep level. I feel so connected to the fact that I am an African woman. I'm connected to what that means in terms of what I'm capable of achieving. I'm connected to it in terms of setting expectations for myself, not listening to society's bullshit. I'm connected to it even like in a sexual way where I'm like, what the fuck? It's not wrong for a woman to love sex and like enjoy great sex. You know what I mean? I'm understanding what that means in terms of keeping myself healthy, mind, spirit, body, that I really want to share that story with you. But also, the other story was so fun to record. And so, okay, y'all are going to help me out. Once you listen to this episode, head over to our Instagram, DM us or comment on whatever post and just between the two, which one do you want to hear next week? Like, and nobody say that I should give you 2 episodes because one, that's not allowed, okay? You have to pick one of the stories and I am struggling. I was meant to have picked one by mid last week and I'm still here struggling. So, help!
That's it for this episode of Legally Clueless. You can share this podcast with your friends. You can keep it for yourself. I'm not judging. Just make sure you're here next week for the next episode.